I don't know if anybody's gonna chime in, but I've got something.
Go for it, Mr. Klein.
Okay. First of all, Taylor Swift has no. You were way. She wasn't even born when you were talking about, hairballs. So, the childless cat lady thing. You are way in front of everybody.
Oh, gee.
Let me just try.
Can you hear her back? Hear Steve back there?
Yes.
Okay, you gotta stand up and say, they can't hear you back.
Oh, well, okay. The child, Katie's got the childless cat lady thing in her ballpark long before Taylor Swift. Okay? Okay.
Don't take the whole evening.
I've got a little more time.
Oh, you got another minute.
I'm actually gonna, bore you with a little bit of. She had the opportunity to meet a wonderful gentleman that I've gotten to know through my business as in Japan, Haru. She was at a dinner here in town when the whole business team from Japan came. I got a book to Haru, and he is Japanese born, lives in America, and his English is getting much better. And here's what I wanted to, he texted me this. We'll ignore the first paragraph. I started reading Katie's book. Sorry it took time for me to get to read in the reading habit, but I'm doing it. It takes time to read and understand, as I still have a lot of English words I don't know. But I love the book.
Aww.
It teaches me a lot of important thoughts in regard to relationships with my important people around me.
Thank you.
Nice.
And to me, that makes me see Katie's book as
Universal.
it's like the Police song, "Message in a Bottle."
All right, thank you.
Hey, lovely. He's my last husband.
Yeah, I do my best.
Most of us know that. So you must have questions, and maybe you're afraid to ask them, or do you want me to say more? I have more notes. Or you have comments.
Do you mostly work with couples?
I work with families, groups, and couples, and the families are really interesting. It's such, I'm definitely never bored. There's a lot going on. Richard,
I did have a question.
you have to be louder.
Okay, so when you're talking about the I statements, that took me a long time to get. Maybe it's because I'm from New York, but
That'll do it.
So can you explain a little bit more about, like Larry David would say, like there was this one bit on his show where he said, his wife says, Larry, you really shouldn't judge me. And she goes, I think I should. So point being, like, how do you balance that I statement with also getting your, like you said, your intention that this is something. Maybe you could expound on that just a bit.
Yeah, it's a great question because it seems a little, I had to go through it a lot with myself. The question was about the I statements, and I had to wonder about it a lot because people do say we get together, we like this and we like that, and that's fine when you're very close and you're getting along. But in conflict especially, the I is very important. What I saw in my work, I see it, it's palpable. When a person shifts from we or you to I, everything melts. because you have to be about yourself. You have to reflect on, I feel something, you know, and that's one of the answers. I think the other thing I want to mention about that is I had to question it because we know we live in a very self-oriented culture, very individualistic. So the I statement sort of seems like, oh, this is more about me, 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 me. And actually it turns out it's not. It's about I and you and I. The image I use a lot is the salsa or the cha-cha. When you dance and it works well, and we know when it works well and we know when it doesn't, right? It's because I'm on my 2 feet with my I, and I'm in sync with you. I'm also paying close attention to your rhythm. And it can't be one or the other. If I'm just doing you, I'm like, whoa, there ain't nobody there. It's no dance. I mean, you might be able to get some dance going with if you're an authority figure, but you know what I mean. So it's very important, and it's also that the I is the eye of the soul, and it's very important. It's seeing into me. Here's how I feel when you say that. It might not be even relevant. It might even be a projection or a distortion, but that's how it comes across to me.
And I can attest she's a great dancer.
Who else? Jill.
Yes, I have a difficult relationship with my sister, and I've had for years. She runs hot and cold. And even though I make attempts to, right now we're not speaking, according to her.
Can people hear you?
Yeah. And
so Jill's having trouble with her sister and they're not speaking right now.
Right, and it's not on my part. I mean, I tried to communicate on holidays and just in general, and I get no response whatsoever. How can I make that relationship work? Or how can I communicate whatever I need to get from her?
Are you saying your positive goal and intention, which is something loving?
Yes.
You are.
She was okay for a couple of years, and then boom, she cuts it off. And that's happened since our mother passed away in 2010. 6 months, and then 5 years, nothing. And then 2 years communication, and then nothing. It's like she's uncomfortable for some reason being around me and my daughter and the grandchildren and everything. I don't know what's wrong with her.
So are you willing to do radical reaching out, which means that you would be the person in this relationship who will always have to extend yourself to the communication? She may have the ostrich thing so deeply embedded in her, so the fear or flight, she may have the flight so deeply embedded for whatever childhood or historic reasons. So you may have to do the reaching out. Are you listening very deeply, burning calories while you listen to her?
I believe I am.
You do?
Yeah, I believe I am. The last time we spoke, she called me up and, as is the case, asked me for money. I said no, because my mother trained her so that whenever she needed something, she would abuse my mother and my mother would give her money. But I don't want to be treated that way.
Okay, let me jump there. So that's a pretty familiar scenario in my work. So you've already said, what I'm hearing you say is that she calls you and asks you for money, and you say no.
Anybody else, yeah.
And because you believe that that's her, your story in your head is she thinks she can just borrow it anytime she needs.
Exactly.
And you have a judgment about that.
It's been her practice. It's been...
Well, you know a lot about her problem.
Yes.
Right, we all do. We all know that other person's issue, right? That's just the way it is. So you know that she has a problem.
Yes.
Okay. So have you shared with her the I about what it feels like for me? If you don't have a no is a wall. unless you are experiencing harm to self or others, then you have to say no. Otherwise, you need to say, here's what I'm feeling when you ask me for money. And I'd like to talk about it because I feel estranged from you.
Oh, that's a good one.
I get scared because I have a story in my head that you're going to keep asking. And I don't have that much, or whatever your truth is.
Yes. Yes.
And then you take a deep breath and say, can we talk about this? How does that sit?
That sounds good.
It's hard work. You will sweat,
Yes. Oh, yes.
as we all are right now. And there's more I could say on that, but I want to make sure if there's anything else people want to ask, or thank you for, it's pretty hard in a group to be so open. Thank you.
Even if you gave her the money, she wouldn't talk to you again.
I'm sure, and I
It doesn't
told
matter
her-
that you said no.
Exactly, and I told her, get a job that pays more than $18 an hour, and or, save more, or, she blew her retirement savings, and she's not even retired yet. Everything's gone.
That's my dream.
Yeah.
Let me jump in. No, I don't want to interrupt too much because it's actually a really important conversation and one we all relate to. What you were doing there, and I didn't get to it in my talk because I couldn't do it all, is you're giving her advice.
Yes.
How many of us love to get advice? Carol will. When I give Steve advice, I say, can I give you advice?
It doesn't mean I listen to it, but
True.
yes.
So it's okay to give advice, and if you want to ask first, make your intention clear. I'd like to be helpful and I have advice. And, I do not recommend questions because that is the court of law. What happened to your last $500 that you called me about? If I ask you, why did you arrive 3 minutes early tonight, you're going to be defensive, right? Questions are, I don't recommend them a lot. I recommend I statements. The other thing is advice. It makes people stiffen, like, well, I know I've been on a diet. I know I need to, whatever do we get advice about, right? I should walk every day. I should be a jogger. I should, read more. And it really, it's okay, but it's not bringing closeness. The closeness comes from curiosity and creating safety with an I statement, like I'm just kind of wondering how I might be helpful. And I'm wondering about what goes on with the money. And I want the intention. I want us to be closer. I know you're pulling away from me. I want to understand what I do. I want feedback. Is there something I do that makes you pull away? But advice is, I do it after a couple drinks when I try to ask people, can I give you advice? We all want to do it. But I'm talking about how to get closer to people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. That's hard to do. And I think the conversation, I don't know if I should have interrupted you or not. Susan,
I just have a comment,
you have to be loud.
and I have an I statement.
Okay.
Can you just tell your sister that I am not a bank?
Oh,
No.
the Bank of Mom,
No.
the Bank of Jill.
She's fired.
No.
It's probably, well, yeah, it's the intention behind that might be worthy of checking out. That was good, Susan. Reese.
Well, I would have a question, is the money the real issue?
That's
Or is
right.
that just a substitute for something else that's going on?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
She doesn't handle money well.
Yeah, but Reese is made that. No, that's a good point, though. None of us handle everything really well, right? So everybody in this room's got something. I know for me it's donuts, or it's, when I've had 2 drinks and I say the wrong thing. I know I have things trying to figure out what to do with my hair. No, that's just, but you know, we all have our thing, but my point being, where were we? What was the question? I'm trying too hard. Forgot.
Is it about?
Oh, is it about money? Thanks, Reese. That was excellent. So it's almost never about the thing that people are arguing about. Yeah. Thank you for that, because I didn't get that in, and that's really important. Conflict is almost never about the thing we're fighting about. So I didn't name the countries like Rwanda and Nazi Germany and Bosnia and Cambodia, and they go on. And if you'd like to name more of them, please do. But we know slavery, the Indians, slaughter of the Indians. So we have both politically and throughout the globe and personally, we all know conflict, right? And it could be the neighbor, it could be the grocery clerk, it could be, and then you get a story in your head. That person doesn't like me. I notice they're really cold whenever I say hello. You know, if you ever risk checking that out with them, my experience is about 90% of the time they're like, really? You thought I was cold? I was just like, you know, distracted because my day at my job was so tough. So if I had not asked that person, I'd be having a story in my head. Well, I just won't say hello to that person. But to your point, Reese, it's never usually about, that's why we have to go down the ladder to, that was the one thing that reminds me to say that I want to just add here, which is when I work with this thing, to help people remember when they're scared in conflict, the brain shuts down so you forget whatever. Everything I've told you tonight, you'll forget, because this guy has 10%, but most of us will remember 5, right? So here are some of the elements of this. Curiosity. It's harder to do than it sounds, right? I'm curious. Why the money thing? What goes on, do you think? What do you think is going on? I don't want to judge you about it. I want to be a safe place for you to explore this. Sounds like you've got a ways to go to become a safe place, but then you have to slow down the conversation. My clients tell me this slowing down is huge. If I just put up my hand real gently and say, hold on, because people want to jump in. That's not how I feel. Don't say that's how I'm feeling. That's not what I'm feeling. That's not what I said. And so you have to slow it down. Just reflect back. What I hear you saying is you think, I didn't bring home the groceries because I was with another woman. Is that what you're telling me? No. So anyway, I'm trying to be funny because I know you're getting tired and hot. But, so slowing it down though is really important. Fewer questions, no advice, reflecting what you hear people saying. The mouth is for anger, and that is for asking. Anger and asking are the same. Asking what I wish for. Going down the ladder, and that's it. That's my nickel. Does anybody have a last comment or question? Allison.
I just want to have a clearer idea between curiosity but not asking questions. I'm sure there's a more nuanced version of that would clarify.
You know, I'd have to think about it, but it's a good question. Thank you. I think that when I hear your question,
Not accusatory questions.
Maybe there's a difference between curious questions and other kind of questions.
So the question was, is there a difference? There are two questions here. One is there a difference between curious questions and regular questions? And there is, but I would say in a conflict, stay with the I statements and say, I want, I need, I feel hurt, I feel afraid to bring this up, but I really want to understand why this keeps happening. So the question is, Curiosity is an intention. I can't give you, I don't think at the moment, I may be forgetting something, but there's not a formula for curiosity, but it's an intention. And if you bring nothing else to a conversation that's difficult but curiosity, because you really want to understand where they're coming from, believe me, that is like lifting weights at the gym when you're out of shape. It's very difficult to be curious when you're angry or you're defensive or you're in a conflict. It's the last thing that we want to do. It's not habituated in us. We are habituated to war. We are in bed with war. We are in bed with debate. This is what we learn. It's all we've learned. Oh, I forgot my main point. So, my takeaway is conflict resolution needs to be taught in the schools from age 3 on up. It needs to be taught in the schools from age 3 on up, and more so than even that. We need to help children understand, and everybody, the roots of rage. There's a great book called Raised to Rage by Milburn and Conrad. There's a lot of writing on this. Rage, it comes from a very deep feeling of being wounded in the past sometimes. It comes from fear. Rage comes from a lot of places. And children need to understand their anger. Where is this coming from? It's not just injustice, which is what we perceive when we watch the news, but these people are feeling wounded by each other. And they need to sit at the table. Negotiation, not war. Negotiation, not war. Hope that helped you.
Thank you.
Thank you.